Hello and welcome to my history talk today. Greetings to friends of the East London Museum and the Border Historical Society. I'm going to talk to you today about the Washi 100 Miler, what I consider young history as it's only 43 years old, but very important to East London and in fact the entire border region. Back in 1977 when it started, it had no precedent. And today it has no parallel, being the only 100 miler in South Africa that still runs point to point on the road. It still attracts the finest and most dedicated ultra runners from far and wide. My name is Tracy Mackay and I'm from the Buffalo Road Runners Club in East London. We've been hosting the Washi 100 miler for the last 43 years and it's one of our most prestigious and important events, of which we are truly proud. It all started in 1976 at the Buffs Club and in the pub. Lionel Whitfield was having drinks with his friend Viv Rex and sitting chatting. Lionel Whitfield, he himself was a member of the Buffs Club but not a running club member, not a runner himself actually, but Viv Rex was the chairman of the running club, and Lionel Whitfield expressed his desire to do something important and special to inaugurate his father, who was Granville Washington Whitfield. Lionel Whitfield expressed his desire to perhaps inaugurate a race and even sponsor it to celebrate his father, who was affectionately known as Washi Whitfield. A few beers later, ensuing deliberations, and Lionel and Viv came up with the idea of a 100-mile road race between East London and Port Alfred. Anyway, so at the next running club meeting, Viv, in his capacity as a running club chairman, had to propose to the committee this idea of running 100 miles. At the time, there was no lack of support for marathon running in the border region. This was quite a running region, with some of the top names coming out of the border region. The first border marathon was from King Williamstown to East London, which started in 1955. There was a Kanubi Marathon, there was the Buffs Marathon, of course, which is still run to this day from McLean Town to East London Buffs Club. But the committee were still in disbelief at this proposal. They of course brought forward that this was double the distance of comrades, and who would this kind of race appeal to? Surely only the lunatics. Of course, I'm trying not to laugh because we don't call them that anymore, since the entire committee actually entered and ran the inaugural race in 1977. So they say, cometh the hour, cometh the committee. So the Washi 100 miler is now run on the first full moon in July. It starts on the Friday evening at 5 p.m. and the runners run through the night to get to the Buffs Club within 26 hours. So they have to finish before 7 p.m. on the Saturday. The distance of 100 miles is actually 160.9 kilometers, so we call it 161 kilometers. And the route itself has changed substantially over the years, several times. So let's go back to the first race. Cold, apparently very cold. Friday night on the 1st of July in 1977. 20 runners lined up outside the City Hall in Oxford Street. When the gun went off, they ran up the road towards Clarendon and then turned left and went out on the Buffalo Pass to the Mount Coke Road, and then they came back to the Coastal Road. At that time, the entire Coastal Road was not tarred, so they actually had a 10-kilometer section of gravel. Apparently, the hallucinations that one experiences on a 26-hour run were worse on the gravel section. That year, the 20 started and 12 finished, and that was the beginning of 43 years of numerous runners. The 12 that finished in 1977 were the smallest finishing fields that the Washi 100 miler had. The most runners that have ever finished was 123, and that was in 2018. The second year, in 1978, which apparently was also just as bitterly cold, 12 runners entered, but all 12 actually finished, which that to me is quite amazing. The heroics of all the Washi runners themselves have added to the Washi folklore. The stories, you've told me I have a limited time, but if I tell you the stories of broken bones and hypothermia and broken ribs and goodness knows what runners have been through to finish this event. We don't call it a race so much as an event. Then I would be here for days. The back markers also contribute, and the back marker, the last guy in, actually gets the tortoise award, so he's just as important as the first finisher that comes across the line. Normally, and in a few years, I call it chasing the sunrise, because they chase the sunrise to get to Buff's Club out of the darkness. The route which I was talking about, the first 3 years they ran from East London to Port Alfred. But then the field started increasing, and the facilities at the finishing, because they finish at the Port Alfred Civic Centre, couldn't accommodate so well anymore. So they changed it to run from Buff's Club to the Ski Boat Club in Port Alfred. And once again, the route changed, because then instead of going up Oxford Street, they went out Esplanade and went out the Coastal Road. But then changed again in 1982. They changed to run from Port Alfred to East London, and that's how we ended up. So they would run from Port Alfred and finish at Buff's Club. It was better for the facilities to accommodate the hall and the toilet facilities. So up until a few years ago, we ran from the Halliards. They would do a 15-kilometer loop in Port Alfred and then run out and return. That route from Port Alfred has also changed, as they initially used to run towards Port Elizabeth, but that became too dangerous, and for safety reasons that was changed. As I was telling you, the route has changed over the years, and for the last 2 years, due to roadworks, we've actually run from Cathcart to East London. There have been several. I mean, if I was counting on my fingers, I think that was 4 or 5 different route changes, but every time it is meticulously remeasured. It has to be 160 kilometers, 0.9 meters, and finish at Buff's Club. Of course, there are several sections of the old route, or the existing route, or the Port Alfred route. We've got several names for it, but essentially it is the Washi route along Chalumna, which most runners have a love-hate relationship with. There's so much to tell you that if I left anybody out, it would be quite rude. But the first lady, she was a Belgian lady, and I actually tracked her down back in Belgium, where she's moved back to. She ran for the first time in 1979. In those days, there were very few female runners, so I tracked her down and found out what did she do, what did she eat along the night, because when you run the Washi 100 miler, you have to have a seconding crew. It's compulsory, and your seconding crew accompany you all night. They feed you, they hydrate you, they sunscreen you in the morning, they change your clothes. They have to do everything and keep you supported for the duration of the event. So I asked her, how did she get through it? You know, what did she actually eat? What did she drink? Oh no, she just had tea and coffee and maybe some soup if somebody made it, and she was just there to run. And run she did. She did 5. Once you've done 5, you get a permanent number for the Washi, and she was the first lady to get her permanent number, and she got permanent number 7. So I thought that was quite amazing. Very tiny, small little lady, and it was lovely to catch up with her about the washi. The first permanent number goes to Dave Park. He ran the inaugural race, and then he did all 5 after that and earned permanent number 1 back in 1981. There's a story that the 1 year, because as I said to you, they had bitterly, but I mean, the weather forecast for the 70s in July, they used to have sleet and freezing temperatures. So in 1979 or 1980, I think, one of the races that he had run, he had not taken goggles with, and he had to put cotton wool pads on his eye and tape his eye closed, so he would rotate eyes every 30 minutes to stop his eyeballs from freezing. It was that cold. So I enjoy looking at the old photos. The men are running in nylon pantyhose, and some of them have these big old-fashioned ear muffs on their ears to keep their ears warm. There's very much camaraderie at the Washi 100 miler. The youngest ever finisher was a 19-year-old girl, Cheryl Hook, in 1981. She was only 19 years old. We don't allow that now. You have to be 21. Road running regulations changed over the years. Our oldest washi finisher was Henri Bastien. He also was from Belgium. So Henri Bastien, he ran twice. His second time he ran, he was the oldest again at 74 years old. We, of course, have 2 that I cannot go without mentioning, because there are many people I could mention about the Washi 100 miler. But Eric Wright from Rand Road Warriors, I think he's from, has now completed 27 Washi 100 milers. And local Buffs Running Club member Butch Duffy has completed 26. Which, as I said, we do attract many dedicated washi runners. Some of them come just to run once and don't come back. Some come to run 5 times to get their permanent number. And then some just don't stop running. The record is held by Johan van der Merwe. His time was 13 hours, 7 minutes and 5 seconds back in 2012, and still hasn't been broken. And the lady washi record is held by Ray Bischoff in 14 hours, 53 and 6 seconds back in 1998. So for all these 43 years, some of the committee members have been involved for 40 plus years. Craig Nelson and his wife have been setting up the washi finish line for over 40 years consecutively. Jack Hugo has handmade the washi trophies. It's a little wooden trophy. He's handmade it for over 40 years. Arthur Brindley and his wife Marge was involved with physiotherapy, and they maintained the database, so we're very fortunate to have a database 43 years later. The list of love and supporters for the Washi 100 miler via Buffs Club members and committee is endless. And just the East London community as well, because everybody comes together. It's quite an unusual event. Some of the crew sit through the middle of the night taking the time of these people when they check in at the halfway point at Fish River Diner, or at the 3/4 point somewhere in the middle of nowhere outside Chalumna. They sit in the cold nights all night waiting for one runner after another and check off their time and make sure everybody's okay, give them some hot water. It's truly outstanding. Of course, it's truly freezing. So the next time you are in the area at Buffs Club on the first Saturday after a full moon, get down and see what these people look like after they've run for hours and hours and hours. One of the main traditions of the washi is the prize giving is held the day after. So the prize giving is held on the Sunday and everybody attends. The second in crew are lauded above all else, because they also stay up all night. They also run kilometers. They feed and dress and do hairstyles for runners and get no t-shirt, no trophy, just a big thanks from us. So it's a very close community. The family and friends gather on the Buffs lawn on a Sunday morning, and the runners are called up one by one to get their trophy. And no, there's no prize money. No runner wins anything for finishing first, finishing last, finishing it all. The prestige of finishing the Washi 100 miler, the grueling race all through the night, the courage, the endurance, the camaraderie, absolute pure exhaustion. That's what they run for. And for as long as they want to carry on running, Buffalo Road Runners will continue organizing. The next event will be the 44th year, and we look forward to getting to our 50th year. Before that time, the Whitfield family plan to have a reunion with us, so perhaps it'll be 2021, where they'll come from far and wide. We've been blessed to have Washi Whitfield's granddaughter set the race off for the last few years, and to join us at prize giving. So it truly is the family spirit, and we'll continue to do so as long as they're continuing to run. Thank you for having me today. I hope you've enjoyed a little bit of history on the Washi 100 miler. Thank you.